Okay. Okay. So, hello, YouTube. It's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing the first episode on our Read and Chat with Friends podcast slash video series. I don't really know what to call it, but we're starting today, and we're going to cover the first 10 issues of Y the Last Man. And we have some friends with us. We have the Dark Lord of the manga himself, Mr. Darth Penn. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Lion. Very excited to be here with you all today.
All right, thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, and we also have Mr. If it's not Shonen, it's garbage. Shonen Trash. How are you, dude?
I'm doing well. I'm grateful to be on here.
Okay, thank you for being on here, both of you. I really appreciate it. So, today we're talking about Y the Last Man, like I mentioned earlier, and we're really not sure how to do this. This is really just like by the seat of our pants right now. So hope everyone that's listening sticks with us and enjoys, and recommend or drop, what's it called? Different titles that you think would be interesting to see in this format. I would be really happy to try different things. So we're going to go through the first 10 issues of Y the Last Man. We're going to do it in two sections. So the first issue, the first 5 issues, which are the first trade paperback, which is called Unmanned, because they have separate titles. And then we're going to do the second one, which is called Cycles. And at the end of each section, we're going to talk about the general feelings that we each had. And we're going to have discourse about it. And then before we do that, though, I hope we can get Darth Penn to give us the premise of the story.
Sure, absolutely. I actually collected the hardcover editions. Mm-hmm. So the first book that I have collects both the trades, so all 10 issues. And I think it's going to be best that I just read it right from the French flap and give you that synopsis here. So yeah, without doing any further, let's see. What would you do if you were the last man on Earth? That's the question that Yorick Brown, 22 years old, unemployed, and an amateur escape artist, never expected he would have to answer seriously. But when all of his fellow men fall dead, along with every other male mammal on the planet, Yorick and his pet monkey Ampersand suddenly find themselves playing a lead role in the fate of humanity itself. So begins an extraordinary journey with the 2 surviving bearers of the Y chromosome setting out to solve the mystery of the male-killing plague and attempting to preserve the future of mankind. But how can one man save an entire species when his heart belongs to only one woman and she's on the other side of the globe?
Nice. It's really definitely an extraordinary ride. I haven't read all of it, right? But these first 2 volumes are really interesting. So we're going to break it down. We're going to go issue by issue now. So issue number 1 starts in the current time period with a woman holding a gun to her head, saying all men are dead. Then it starts a sequence of flashbacks at 29 minutes, 24 minutes, 18, then 13, then 7, then 4, and then back to the current time. And throughout this, you see Yorick and a few other characters dealing with the moments that lead up to the death of men. Issue 2 is 2 months later. Yorick, walking around with a mask on his face, trying to keep his identity hidden, meets a woman. Now, this woman is a trash collector, a dead body collector. She's getting all of the male bodies out of places so that women can move in and so that she can trade those bodies in for food. Now, we get the beginning of Agent 355 going to get the President of the United States, who is the only woman that was on the White House cabinet. Then Yorick is traveling to get to his mom. He gets there and they talk. He is essentially told he needs to find a doctor by the name of Dr. Mann, who is the only person that can help him figure out what is going on and to help him bring back men. Issue 3 starts with the Republicans attacking the White House, which is quite funny, actually. Then we have Yorick locked in by his mother into the basement in order to protect him. However, given that he's an escape artist, he manages to escape. Now, back at with his mother, the Republican women are going crazy. Stuff is happening. People are dying. And eventually, they get to a point where they are beaten or they stop because they realize how bad the situation just got. Then we skip over to Alter, the Israeli soldier woman, who is setting out to go hunt down the last man on Earth. Now, issue number 4 opens with Yorick getting beaten by a bunch of women, and then there's some traveling, there's some development of the world post-man. We see the Amazons for the first time as Yorick is at the Washington Monument that turned into a shrine to men, which is funny since it's the most phallic monument in the United States. And then the Amazons come in and start vandalizing the shrine. Then Yorick stands up to them, he gets beat, he shows them that he's a man, and 355 steps in to beat them. And then the ending of the issue is that Hero is one of these Amazon, which are crazy extremists that are coping with the reality of a world without men. Now, issue 5 is essentially starts with a crazy dream that Yorick has. Then a conversation with 355. Then we jump to Hero with the Amazons on a manhunt. They're searching for Yorick. Then Yorick and 355 go to Dr. Man. They find her. They have a conversation. They try to get stuff started, but the capuchin monkey Ampersand escapes. They're out hunting for him for 4 hours, during which time Alter makes it to the lab and torches it. Yorick, Dr. Man, and 355 come back later, about 2 hours later, if I remember correctly, and realize that the place is torched. Now, they are on a journey to California. So, Reki, you also read this for the first time, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so what did you think about it?
I found it to be so. I hate to say the word slow start because it literally jumps right into the action. But then once that it's kind of, you mentioned in the recap how it kind of backtracks somewhat. I had a real lull there for a while, so it really slowed down for me. But I was trying to appreciate, that this is a larger story and it's just taking a lot of setup.
Okay. Darth, this is your how many times reread?
Only my second. Yeah, okay. I just finished this for the first time like earlier this year, like around February, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, what did you think about it with your reread?
With my reread, I went into it obviously, knowing what to expect, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I took away a few thoughts this time reading it that I guess I didn't really gather the first time because I was still putting all the pieces together. But rereading it, I guess you always get a second experience, just like rewatching a movie. You catch things you don't see the first time. And
yeah,
absolutely. I think to anybody who has ever read The Stand by Stephen King, or maybe in a more modern aspect, I'll say The Walking Dead. Both of those, do either of you know of Walking Dead or The Stand?
I know of them. I haven't watched either.
Stand is my favorite King, and I watched The Walking Dead for a few. Never read the comics, though.
Nice. So Stand is your favorite King. I think that you'll have an understanding of when I say this, but The Stand could have been an hour-and-a-half movie, but it's more of the journey, not so much the situation at a certain point. Like the beginning of The Stand, there's an outbreak that happens, and then there's only like certain amounts of people on the planet that aren't affected by this outbreak, and they're trying to meet each other and get together. That's a very dumbed down version of what happens in The Stand. But I kind of went into this kind of with that same aspect of, yes, there's a situation that happened, but that's not the whole story. Like the whole story is basically how everything is so different than the things used to be and how people are adapting to this society now, almost like The Stand or almost like The Walking Dead, where yes, there was a zombie outbreak and, people are now surviving, but, there's love stories, there's stories about corrupt government. It's like, it's all the ins and outs of the experiences that the people are going through that kind of make the story for me.
Okay. Well, for me personally, I thought I didn't find it that slow, but I did find it a little confusing to get into at first. And I think the first issue was really action packed, and then there was like a bit of a lull there between issue 2 to 4, and then once again it picked up. I enjoyed myself reading this. This first volume was good. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like catching me, right? Like I was happy to read the next volume, but I wasn't particularly excited about it. And it's not necessarily because it was bad. It was just like a thing that I read. There was nothing all that special about it, right?
Right.
So, but I mean, I read the second one, and we'll get to that eventually, but that was a lot better at catching my attention. So, was there anything either of you didn't like about this first issue? Reki or Darth? Either of you? Something you didn't like about this issue? Or about this trade paperback, sorry?
So when you say don't like, do you mean like have serious problems with, or just like things that bugged me? Because I mean, there's several things that bugged me, but it's not really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I can say there's nothing that stuck out to me. It was like, I can't take this anymore. Put it in the trash.
Well, any interpretation, I think. Anything you found a little bit annoying, anything you didn't particularly jive with, or anything, you know, that you were not expecting that wasn't necessarily a positive. And either of you can jump in at this.
I'll say something. I'll say something first about something that it's not that I don't necessarily like it, but it would be like more of a disclosure for people that could be bothered. Because from my perception, I got into manga just because of how insane it is, and like just how R-rated most of the stuff that I read is saying. And if you would be saying, you know, what category, if Why the Last Man, which is obviously an American comic or Western comic, what category in manga would it be? I'm sure we'd all agree that this is a seinen, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I guess my perception of comic books was really ignorant, because I grew up like despising reading and like not being confident in my reading abilities. So like, even though I grew up with like the Spider-Man trilogy movies and like, you know, those different kinds, I didn't really grow up with American comics. And when I did get into them, everything that I had read was very PG or PG-13 at the max. And then I found Brian K. Vaughan. I read Saga, and it was like it was like, there's some parts in Saga that I think are even more crazy than stuff that I've read in manga. So that's a confusing sentence, but I'm just saying, like, to me, I didn't go into this as like you know, these politics are done so often and they bring this up all the time in Western comics. Like, I kind of went into it blindly, and like it kind of threw me off what my expectation was going to be for a Western comic book for like adults. Like they frequently use the F word, like they use racial slanders, they make jokes about or like sexual organs and stuff like that, like throughout it. Like I guess I just wasn't expecting that, and that kind of helped me enjoy it a little more, knowing that there are adult comic books out there for like a more mature audience or people that can handle that stuff without getting offended, yada yada.
Yeah, this is definitely a more adult comic book. It's really something that I think would be really good as a TV show on HBO or something.
That's what I feel like when I read it. Like the way that the dialogue's written and the way that like the panels go, like you'll turn the page and like, you know, they'll set something up and then you'll turn the page and it's obviously, you almost know what you're going to see before you turn the page. And it's very HBO like that. And it is getting an adaptation. I don't know if you know that or not, Lion.
Oh, no, I did not.
There's been rumors of it for like a decade, but they just officially finally announced something recently that
nice.
I think it's Hulu is going to be serializing it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Reki, you got anything?
Yeah. Two quick things. I want to appreciate the perspective that Darth Penn's coming from, talking about, you know, not being necessarily exposed to more adult comics, and so it's a kind of a weird dichotomy, I guess, because, you know, I came from like reading more hardcore stuff before I went back and checked out the more like PG-13 comics. So so I had maybe mentioned this to you all privately, but I was a little disappointed at like the lack of brain splatter in certain panels.
You wanted a little more detail. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of funny. And then my other point has slipped my mind, so I'll just let it go.
Okay. Well, if I want to talk about anything that was slightly annoying or necessarily not my favorite part, I do think the politics aspect was not the best. I mean, I don't have any strong political leanings one way or another, but I don't particularly enjoy entertainment that is, very full of political discourse. And it's not because I think political discourse doesn't have a place in media. I just think that it should have subtlety and it should be done in a way that's
Tasteful.
yes, exactly, tasteful. I do think here it's a little on the nose, okay? The political preferences of Brian K. Vaughan and the sort of messaging he wants to get across is definitely clear, but
You don't have to read into it too much. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not really that important to the story, and it's actually rather fun the way he does it because it's usually as a joke.
Right.
And it comes off as like, yes, this is funny, and it's supposed to be funny. So I didn't love that it was very on the nose, but I enjoyed the way in which it was done. So that's really my only criticism, I guess. Now, if either of you have anything else to add from that.
I guess I'll get into more. I definitely agree with you on that last point you make, Lion. But at the same time, we'll get into it more, and I believe for an incident that occurs in the second trade. But I
Sure.
think that there's a way. So in this volume, he does it ways that kind of grate me slightly. But then in the later volume, he'll actually do it in a way that I think is really what's the word I'm looking for? It really supplements the story very well. So there's he's very self-aware, and so maybe it's just a personal thing for me of when it's just trying to be like comedic relief, it rubs me the wrong way. But when he's trying to use it for plot progression, it's much more impactful that way.
So what was that grading part? Was it the Republicans joke?
That's the low-hanging fruit. I'm sure there were others. I'm sure there were others, but I didn't bother to write them down.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, I think that was the one that comes to mind the easiest. That one was really very, very on the nose. But I thought it was really funny. So it's fine. Okay, now on the opposite side of the spectrum, was there anything you particularly loved about this trade? Anything that really sparked interest or that was different that you weren't expecting, that was, surprising in a positive way? Either of you can jump in at any time.
I really liked the in the introduction. I believe it's just the first issue where we're being shown all these different women and the different time lapses. It's kind of like introducing, going into the story knowing that it's about there's only one man left on the planet, at least to our knowledge. It's like an interesting way of introducing all these characters that appear to play an important role in the story. So I found that to be pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know exactly which part you're talking about. Was it?
It's literally maybe the first couple pages. I'm trying to think back, but we're just shown the Israeli soldier, and we're just shown Agent 355.
Everybody kind of just living their normal day-to-day life.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but they're not related to Yorick at this point in the story, so it's kind of foreshadowing of these are important characters. You might want to pay attention.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I get what you're talking about. It's that it alternates between Yorick's perspective and a woman's perspective during those flashback scenes. I think that's what Reki is referring to. At 30 minutes, it's Yorick. Then at 25 minutes, it's his mom. Then at 18, it's Yorick. Then at 13, it's the Israeli person. And it kind of goes like that until everyone's back at the current time period. So yeah, I did agree with you on that. I think it was interesting, and it was a cool way to bring in all the characters. And it actually felt pretty cinematic. Again, I do feel like that was something that you would see in a TV show. So I thought that was interesting.
Now, Brian K. Vaughan actually wrote 4 television shows. I'd have to pull up his wiki to give you details, but I know for sure he was a writer in the series Lost.
Okay, yeah.
Well, now it all makes sense. No.
Yeah, and he's very cinematic in his storytelling. And the Saga, which is his other work that I'm always praising up and down, he actually said that he created that because he wanted to have he wanted to have an outlet where he could do basically whatever he wanted, and like stuff that he would never be able to do in television or film just because of expectations of the audience, or he just has free realm at Image to do whatever he wants, and they let him, and it shows. It really shows. So
nice. I need to check out his other works. I do find his storytelling style, I guess, rather interesting, and I do want to check out more of it. And I do like that his works are all self-contained, and that they're not just like someone else's character that he has to play with for a run.
Right.
It feels a lot more like much better concentrated, concise storytelling, I guess. You don't have to worry about 100 years of canon or whatever.
Right, exactly. He goes into it having a beginning, middle, and an end in mind, and doesn't have to fill in 60 years of gaps and back lore or whatever.
Okay, anything else positive from either of you?
I personally really like the artwork. It seems almost simplistic, but I mean, I think that helps make the comic feel a little bit more real. I'll tell you what, though, this maybe fits in with what I don't like, but I don't even know if your editions have this or what, but the cover pages at the beginning of each chapter, I do not like that artwork at all.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it. It doesn't look like the characters to me at all that's in the actual story, and it looks just like abstract art that somebody did that's like only heard what the character should look like and stuff, in my opinion. Like it doesn't fit with the comic in my...
I think you hit the nail with the last point you make. It's so out of place. Like, I think that the art necessarily, it's good art, but it's almost like you're flipping through, and then when you hit a new issue, you're kind of like taken out of the moment because you're looking at something just completely different from everything else you've looked at for the last 15 minutes or so.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I definitely agree with the fact that it takes you out, but I liked that artwork a lot more than I like the specific artwork of the series. Like, I don't necessarily think it's simplistic. It's just stylized in a way that makes me think of like Saturday morning comics or something. I don't know. It's like, I didn't personally love it, but I didn't feel it detracted at all from my enjoyment of the series. So I don't really have a problem with it.
Right.
But I mean, it was okay. I do like those cover pages. I agree that they do take you out of the scene, but they function really well as like, I don't know, pauses. Like you're turning to the next episode in the series, I guess. So I didn't mind it too much.
And I'm glad you didn't. They should be liked. They're cover pages. Normally when you reach a cover page, you get that, oh yeah, next chapter, look at this beautiful artwork. But like, to me, it just didn't do it for me. So I'm glad that it did for you.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It's cool. I don't know. I'm trying to think of if there was anything that I particularly liked. And I don't necessarily know that there was anything all that like surprising or particularly compelling to me.
See, I loved how he does the dialogue. I thought the paneling was great. Very cinematic. Like, it has that, you turn the page, you're going to get that full page spread for that final chapter, and it's going to be a cliffhanger for you to go out and buy the next step, the next comic at the stand when it was originally being released. So it has that. It doesn't have a ton of action, but when the action is there, I think the paneling in that action is good. Like, it's very easy to read. Yeah. I think that I could hand this to my wife or somebody else that doesn't read comics fluently and still would be able to follow it pretty easily, not be lost with where to read the dialogue and how the people are communicating with each other. And I love his use of sarcasm. And I'll stop gushing about everything I love now. But yeah, his writing is very sarcastic. Yorick or Urick, however you say it. Yeah, he's a smart ass, and I like that about his character. Like, he also does like a ton of pop culture references, dropping Star Wars, obviously, which is going to tug at my heartstrings. He drops several Star Wars references. Talks about musicians when they're sitting around the shrine. and talking about all the rock stars, because that was just such a cool part to me. I'm a huge fan of music, and to anybody that hasn't read it and wants to know what this is, it's Yorick in a gas mask, so he's basically using a female voice and talking with these females that are just paying respects more or less to the people, all the men that have died, and they came to the realization that all the rock stars died at once,
yeah.
you know, and they're talking about, you know, and it always hits me like a rock when I find out a rock star dies, because it's that dreadful feeling. And I remember that. I remember being in high school and hearing Johnny Cash died and like not wanting to go to school that day, because you're just like, you know, these guys are immortal. These are, you know, rock stars. They're our heroes. Like, they don't die, you know, and to have that feeling about every single one. And they go through, they say Dylan, Bowie, the rest of the Beatles, all the Eels, you know, and they name drop Tom Waits, which is one of my favorite songwriters of all time. So to see that, and they say the mother effing D, which I can only assume is Tenacious D, unless
that's
you
what
guys
I hope so bad that it is.
It is. So like in my mind, even if it's not, if it's something else, I don't want to know. Just I read the mother effing D is Tenacious D and loved that too. So there's so many cool pop culture things that if you're up to date on knowing that stuff, it's kind of an added bonus too.
Yeah, I thought it was the Tenacious D as well, and I hope it is. Yeah,
we're all on the same page.
Yeah, well, there we go. Darth gushed about the references for a minute. Nice.
Absolutely. Sorry.
No. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, I think that more or less covers the first trade. Right? Is there anything else you guys are interested in saying or doing or mentioning it at all?
I think it's time.
Volume 2, I guess, or trade number 2. We're going to cover issues 6 through 10, and we're going to do it in the same way. So I'm going to go through each issue, and I'm going to give you a general retelling or accounting of what happens in each one. So, all right. Volume 2 contains issues 6 through 10. We're going to go down the line, and I'll tell you what each one of them consists of. So, issue 6 requires Yorick, Man, and 355 to get on the train. There's some brainwashing from the Amazons. Yorick gets attacked by 2 random women on the train and eventually falls off the train. He is found by a woman from a small town who is trying to help him out. Issue number 7, Man and 355 are stuck after they jumped off the train in issue 6 because 355 was heavily injured via head wound. Yorick is being helped out by Sonia, the nice lady from the small town that picked him up in issue 6. There's a bit of romancing that happens there that's a little quick but interesting. There are some Amazons still on the hunt looking for Yorick. Now, 355 gets the medical attention she needs thanks to the small town. And then we're back with the Amazons as they are closing in. We also get in issue 8 Hero dealing with some guilt from killing a woman in the previous issue. Then 355 is going to recover. She is having a bit of a break as she gets better. Apparently there's a secret in this small town that we aren't privy to just yet. Then Yorick and Sonia go on a small date of sorts in the lumber yard, I guess. 355 and Dr. Man have a moment where 355 is looking for Yorick, which was kind of humorous. Then Yorick and Sonia kiss, and eventually, because of their kiss, the secret gets out. Apparently, this town is full of convicts. After that, it ends with Hero finally catching up to Yorick and demanding he go outside. Issue number 9 starts with Hero having a standoff with Yorick, and the Amazons have a standoff with the convicts. there is an escalation of the confrontation, and then another standoff. The Amazons beat or get beat by the convicts. There was a bit of a distraction that happened there between Yorick and Victoria getting in a bit of a squabble, and the convicts managed to hurt Victoria, so we get that out of the way. Eventually, Sonia dies through because of an arrow through the heart, which really sucks. But she was a small part of the volume, so it's okay. Issue number 10. Hero versus Yorick are standing off again, as Yorick is angry with his sister for killing a woman that didn't deserve to die. The convicts help Yorick get out of the way and lock up all of the Amazons that were in the small town. The military is having a standoff of their own in a different scene where the Boston military yard is fighting with Alter as she steals a helicopter to go on the search for Yorick. Then Hero spits out a key after Yorick and 355 have a conversation, and then they go traveling once again. The chapter ends with astronauts in space, which include a woman and 2 men. So Yorick is not actually the last man on Earth, which is interesting as a setup for next volume. So let's do the same thing we did last time. How do you guys feel about this in general? Darth, Penn, do you want to start?
I think the pacing in this one was definitely a lot better, and I'm interested to hear what you guys are wanting to say about it. But yeah, I definitely felt like there was a lot less dull moments. But I think that's also because the story was, already fairly set up. We're already a volume into it, so they got a lot more to play with the storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's true overall. There was a lot more action here. There was a lot more there was a lot less lulls in the storytelling, like a lot less
for sure
falls, I guess, in the action. Reki, what do you think, man?
Maybe we should just wait till we get to it, but it's like one of the most cathartic experiences of my life occurred in this issue. So
really,
we'll just get there when we get there. But yeah, it definitely picked up for sure. And,
okay, well that's resounding. What's it called? Endorsement from Reki, I guess.
Right.
So, what did you guys not like about this specific volume? Is there anything that was annoying, upsetting, rather not what you were expecting? Anything like that? Yes, no, maybe?
I don't really think I have hardly any complaints with this volume by itself, actually.
Okay. Did you have any, Darth? Was there anything wrong with it?
Nothing that I personally, again, maybe I'm just too desensitized or whatever, but nothing I was personally offended by. But there's language in this volume and slurs, that especially in that train instance. So like when I read that, I was whoa, like that wasn't necessary. Like, and it's again, I guess, like if you want to say that you're using that for shock value, or because there's certainly things that happen in all media that just try to get that rouse out of you. But yeah, I thought that was a little bit unnecessary. But again, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I feel you. I do think I had a similar reaction in that instance when I was reading it, but at the same time, it's like, well, they're trying to be quote unquote realistic.
Right.
To the group of people that would live in that area, so I guess it makes sense.
Right.
I'm sure he got flagged for it when it originally released.
This is in the early 2000s, though, was it not? So I'm
right. Yeah.
To see how flack he actually got. But going back, if you remember when we talked about the first part, I had mentioned there were some things that that I could appreciate what he was trying to do because I felt like it was moving towards the plot. And actually going even further back, I think the foreshadow to that incident occurred in the first trade, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure exactly, but they were walking on the road. It was 355 in York, and they were talking about moving through the South or the Midwest or however you describe it.
Yeah.
And Agent 355 basically just explains, I can't just be walking around the street like this, and it's because in this scenario that she's black.
Right.
Yeah.
And and it's like, oh well, that's still a problem even when the world's gone to hell and there's only women around. And then that kind of foreshadowing leads up to this incident on the train where they utter the slur.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
I could really appreciate that in that instance where he used language like that. And so I thought it was actually really well done.
Yeah, it was definitely set up properly and well. It just, in the current climate that we have.
I think that's just what totally it is.
Agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I think that was the only instance, and I very much doubt we're gonna have another one once they get out of this region of the United States. So it's not really a problem. However, if anyone reads it and are not expecting it, it might cause some issues, but it's just one word, one time. It's all good.
And yeah, that's why I said kind of like whatever. I didn't mean to like belittle the the phrase or whatever.
No.
Yeah, I'm just saying like I loved personally like he was talking about. Not that I loved it, but like because it's a sad moment. But like when I think when they were having that conversation, correct me if I'm wrong. She even said like, "Do you think racism is gonna die just because a man did?" Like, and that's the honest truth. Like like hatred doesn't span from one group of people or one sex. It's a mindset, and yeah, that it shows realistically. Yeah, in that train setting, yeah, she was absolutely right.
Yeah, it was really good in my opinion. It was really well executed, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think if I had any problems or anything felt weird about this, and I don't really think so. I think everything made sense within the logic of the story and within the general logic of how people act and interact with each other. I guess maybe that whole like romancy aspect between Yorick and Sonia was a little off the cuff. Like it felt like it was a little too quick, but then again, it's always in these, apocalyptic situations where people fall in love immediately, and it's just because the whole like huge amount of pressure, and then finding someone that you can at least connect with a little bit kind of takes a lot of that pressure off. So it kind of makes sense, I guess, but it just felt a little too quick, and Yorick really didn't try to not fall for it, I guess. I don't know.
I just that whole interaction just to me was just like, I don't want to say funny, but I don't know what other word I could think of it. It was just crazy because like she was obviously like trying to seduce him, and she was like, well, your girl's not here right now. I am, I'm sure that it's hard for you, what you're going through right now. So like she was obviously leading him on, and then he kisses her, and then she's immediately like, I can't do this. I was actually a meth addict, and I used to sell, crack with my boyfriend or something like that. And all the people around are ex-convicts. I was like, whoa, that escalated quickly. Like
it really did escalate.
Yeah. Like, well, just a simple kiss blew up into that, like 2 pages worth of just, whoa, what happened here? We're in a whole new environment all of a sudden.
Well, and like they mentioned about how they're trying to like the women of the town are trying to keep their origins secret, and it's just the way it was revealed was just that rushed moment right there.
Exactly, right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but overall, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it kind of makes sense. She's like falling for the last man on Earth, literally, right. And she's like, okay, I can't lie to him. I can't say, what's it called? Or, yeah, I can't lie to him. I have to tell him the truth. And it was just like crazy how fast it happened. But yeah, it was a little bit funny. But overall, it was interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. There's nothing really wrong with it. It was just kind of like a little different, I guess. I don't know. So let's move on to good things. Anyone have anything particularly amazing that they found in this volume?
Why, yes.
I'm all ears. Go ahead.
I'm glad you asked. So I'm sure we're probably mostly going to agree on this, but
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed Victoria getting that axe to the head.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
Best part of the trade.
Yep, best part of the series for me.
Yes.
So
yeah. That was awesome. Victoria was such a horrid character. I don't particularly want to say I hate characters, right? Because they're really just functioning as a way to tell a story. But she was really well done as a horrible, abusive,
Manipulative, brainwashing.
definitely
Yes.
manipulative.
yes, it was so like I could believe it. And I thought the worst part was that she was like, I don't want to be like men. And then she would do something that was horrible that she would accuse men of doing. And I was like, damn it, I hate her.
Right.
She was a really good character as like, I can hate you wholeheartedly and not feel bad about it. It was good.
She's the best character I will never miss.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I loved the paneling though when she was basically just about like, this is the fall of man and is about to take him out with that gun, and you hear you see the click sound effect like she's getting the gun in position, and then the next panel's a thunk.
Yeah.
And then the panel below that's just like Yorick opening his eyes like he's still alive, and then the next panel that next beautiful panel.
Yeah, it was so good. Oh man. Yeah,
And
Ricky.
You bring up a point there with the click, like when it's. I took that as the gun didn't fire the first time I read it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh. But then obviously as you go to the next panel, you see things unfold. But for a brief moment, I thought, her gun wasn't loaded? Are you serious?
Oh, like it was a blank or something, or nothing was in there.
Something like that. Yeah.
So I'm so ignorant with guns and how they work, but what's that little thing in the back that you always click up first? Like
Hammer?
Yeah, probably.
Hammer.
That's what I imagine that click sound to be. Like they put the hammer in position and it was about to fire, but the thunk was the axe, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought she she pulled the trigger and there wasn't anything in the chamber, so it didn't go off. And I thought Yorick was gonna like fight her, right? But then you keep going and freaking axe to the head. It was so good. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
it was so good. It was one of you turn the page, you're just like, oh damn. Like
Yeah.
it's just. Yeah, but then right after that is the arrow gets launched from Hero into Sophie or Sophia, and that's just like, oh well.
Yeah, that's really sucked. Yeah, I don't know. I think those two deaths were a little too close to each other to really give each one of them their own amount of meaning, at least to me. I'm not really sure though.
Just to give like the play the devil's advocate, I don't have as much of a problem with it because you have the death of, to this point in the story, a very major character, and then also a death of a character that we literally just met. So
yeah, that's true.
While they
Right.
had some significant story time, like they weren't, they weren't. It's not like a chapter 1 character where we were like seriously invested in their background and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But like, Sonia was pretty important in this specific volume. I mean, she was in it from the very beginning, more or less, of this trade. So I don't know, but yeah, I guess she didn't really function as much, except as a kind of like, like a plot progression point, I guess. Like her.
If anything, it just shows the ongoing luck of Yorick. I mean,
Yeah.
he's obviously in love with this girl that he's like planning on finding on the other side of the world that he, didn't officially get to propose to.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen, anybody in that sort of nature for how long. He finally breaks down after even saying that it's wrong and he shouldn't. He still kisses the girl. She's dead 8 pages later, like 9 pages later. You know what I mean? Like that's just this guy's luck, being. I've heard a reviewer say once, like, being the last guy on Earth isn't all that it's cracked up to be, because, you hear those stories of being the last man on Earth and it's like this, all the women adore you, but nope, that is not this story. Like,
yeah, he's going to be like a harem king or something, but it's
like,
nope,
that's not in this story.
If he was in high school, though, the rules would be different.
Yeah, maybe, dude. Yeah. So, Anything else that you guys particularly liked or that was interesting or compelling?
I found the whole like they kind of mention it in the dialogue. I think George specifically about how the convicts basically built like a Mayberry type town, and like how
Mm-hmm.
well kept up it was compared to like what we'd seen in the cities. And so I really like that there was like there's still these like probably to we would assume these little upcrops of small villages, small towns that are still well maintained and would function normally with electricity and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of true. It was interesting how they managed to make it all work. Um, I'm not I'm not really sure they exactly explained how they were skilled enough to have a what's it called?
Like to get the generators back up and running or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a greenhouse of some sort that they put together. I forget.
Well, apparently Lydia, or the old lady, whatever her name was, like she just knew everything. She'd been around so long, she'd done it all.
Well, I guess so. I mean,
She gave me a Mother Abigail feel.
I mean, if it works, I mean, it's not really that important, right? They moved on from this place relatively quickly. It's not that important, but it was just kind of one of those like, how did that work? You know. Overall, I think the book was rather good. The action was well paced. There wasn't any problems. There wasn't any sections where it was like slow. There was a few things that I found really well done. I really enjoyed the way that well, I already talked about it, I guess. Victoria is such a horrible character, but she was such a good like spokesperson for this extremist group, and it was really interesting how good she was. Right? I mean, it's also because the story had to move along, and this is kind of a short story as it is, but it was interesting. I liked that whole kind of moment they set up with 355 or 333, whatever her name is, where she's talking with Dr. Mann, and she's like saying she wants him
Oh,
or
yeah.
them or whatever, and Dr. Mann's like, "Oh, you're not my type. I'm sorry," but then she says Yorick, and then Dr. Mann's like a little sad, but it like kind of sets up like something else there, and I'm not really sure what
It's
it's
planting seeds. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was good. I like that they that Brian K. Vaughan takes the time to plant all the seeds instead of just like pulling it out of his ass.
Right.
Yeah. So, anything else? Anything that came to mind?
Uh, I guess I could have put this in the section I didn't like. It's not that I necessarily didn't like it. It's just that I'm curious if I actually missed something.
Mm-hmm.
But once they lock up all the Amazons and we see Hero there, and she like says, you know, my brother taught me this trick, and she like pukes up a key or whatever.
Yeah.
One, why did she have to like swallow it? Because I don't remember any. Like, did we actually see her retrieving that key? I don't think we did. So I just curious like why she felt she had to like go to that extreme length to hide it, and then two, like where did she even get it to begin with?
I don't think that's like the specific key to her cell. I think that's just a general like lock
Key
picking.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense. It's a lockpick. Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
That changes things. I thought it was the specific key to herself.
No. No, and you know, that does bring up something with Hero. I don't know where her character stands. Like, she has moments of guilt. She has moments of like crazy brainwashing. She has a lot of different like she kind of flip-flops between the two, and I really don't know where she stands. And that last scene where we had her, you know, getting the lockpick out, I don't know where she's going. So, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a big thought. I think she's gonna like basically just replace Victoria. To be honest, I can see why I can see why there's a thought that we're not sure what she's gonna do, but I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like that's like the most like direct path for her is to just step. Even if she might like fight it like at times, I think she's ultimately gonna try to take the role of major antagonist.
You think so?
You
That's
think she's
how I
Kylo
feel,
Ren, basically.
Oh God, no! Please not Kylo Ren. Yeah, yeah. Actually, I can see her become the antagonist, but she could still be part of the Amazons and just kind of rework their devotion, I guess, to actually bettering society instead of just like forming a cult around this event. I don't know.
And then something we haven't really mentioned is like the form of government that's currently in place. So that's actually interesting too. If she does try to like take the Amazons in a different direction, like are they still going to try to like overthrow the current government? You know, we were introduced to the new president early in the first trade. And just so that's kind of interesting too to think about stuff. Like that.
Well, is there even actually a government right now? Like, I know that technically there is a president, but they don't have any way to communicate with other cities, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yes.
There is no government right now, right? It's very long.
There's a government, but they're not doing anything. Oh, well, what's different?
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
Just play like the trombone sound.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
too real, man.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I know, Darth, you already read it, right? So you're trying to not spoil anything for us.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, the way it ends is
everybody dies.
No, obviously. Well, okay. Is it spoilers? Like, obviously something's good's gonna come out of it, right? Probably, hopefully. So,
I mean, this is your first time ever reading.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, I'm not saying a single thing. I was just gonna say, it's your first time reading this author. You can only make your own assumptions of what's gonna happen, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
One thing that I will say coming out of this experience, and I don't know if this is going to sound sappy or me thinking too deep or what, so feel free to edit this out if you want. But
sure,
something I'm taking away is from the sounds of it, both of you probably would have dropped this after trade 1 if this podcast wasn't in place and like I wasn't already hyping it up. So here's my thoughts. Like in an alternate universe, you guys each found this in a thrift store for a few dollars each, volume 1. Read it, thought, it was okay. It had a few things with it kind of, and then never picked it up again. Well, in reality, I think the rest of the story is a really well-written story, and I'm very excited to hear your aspects. So a part of me almost wants to go and like reread volume 1 of Dr. Stone or reread volume 1 of Mob Psycho, like these series that I kind of gave up after volume 1 that I still have people telling me like, you got to keep going. Like, I feel like I'm on the other opposite end of that now. So that's one thing I took away from this.
So I have to jump right in because you mentioned Dr. Stone.
Same plot point at the end.
Don't waste your time.
Don't waste my time.
Like, I'm not saying it's a bad series, but if you didn't like volume 1, you're wasting your time. It's not gonna like. Honestly, to me, volume 1, 2, and 3 might be the best part of the series that I read before I dropped it. So.
And if I didn't like it at that point,
yeah.
okay.
So for me, it didn't get any better. So I wouldn't go down that road if I were you.
Coming from you, I'll take your word for it, though.
I think Mob Psycho might be worth maybe giving one more book, and if you don't like it after that, then I would let that go as well.
Okay.
That's just my opinion on those two.
I'm always open for it, so.
Okay. Well, coming back to this, Darth, I don't think I would have dropped this after the first volume. I think I would have read the second one. Because I think the idea, the premise behind this story is good. It's just the first one was not that great, I guess.
Yeah.
The difference is between manga and this is that this only took 5 volumes, which is or like 6 volumes, whatever, to get better. Manga can take volumes of like a lot of books to get better, and that's like a little different.
Like because this might have a dull chapter, but there's not 4 dull volumes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Because manga is like if you're not liking an arc of the manga, it's probably you probably won't enjoy it. And arcs are rather long, depending on the series, right? So I don't know.
Right.
I would have definitely picked up the second trade of this, regardless of whether you hyped it up or not. If I ended up picking it up on my own, but I don't know.
It would have been a hard drop for me.
See, yeah.
I'm just being honest. Like if I didn't have to read it, I wouldn't have.
Okay, but now that you've read the second one, you're willing.
Now, because I was really sweating. I'm like, man, I gotta get through like 9 more of these or something. But no, now it's fine. Now I'm like looking forward to picking up the next one.
Okay, but
now that we had this conversation too, and finding out that The Stand is your favorite Stephen King novel, I think that maybe going into it with a little, not, I don't want you to like sit there and like try to find comparisons, because that's not what I meant by it, but just the way of the storytelling of like the journey itself is more of the enjoyable aspect than just the main story elements.
Yeah, and as soon as you like brought that up earlier, I immediately started connecting dots. So I can totally agree with your point.
I don't know if your copy says it, but mine, on every single hardcover, it says the best graphic novel I've ever read, Stephen King. Like, he's quoted saying that.
I think I saw that as well, actually. Or no,
Yeah.
maybe I saw it in your video. Is actually what I'm thinking of.
Nice.
When you did the BKV spotlight, I think you showed that.
Mm-hmm. Man, now I need to read The Stand.
It's a big boy.
It's okay. I like reading. It's fine.
Yeah.
You can read the Marvel adaptation.
Oh, okay, maybe. There's also a movie, right?
I think it was a short series, but it might have been a movie.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're basically done, more or less. Yes? We kind of finished up talking about other things, so it's all good. Let's close it up now, and please don't leave the call yet, but thank you, everyone that's watching, for listening, and please drop a like, a comment, and subscribe to me and to the other lovely individuals that are here with me today. I'll leave them down in the description and in the comments. And hope you guys enjoyed. Please let us know what you thought about this episode of the podcast, the Why the Last Man volumes that we covered, and drop recommendations if you guys want us to do it on anything else, or ways to improve this, because we are really just trying this out for the first time, and we're not really sure how to do it just yet. So drop any recommendations, comments, and concerns that you guys have down in the comments. We'll try our best to answer them and change our method accordingly. Thank you guys very much for joining us once again, and see you guys later.